What's up, everybody? Thank you for listening to the Flip Side Podcast, Flip Side for your ears. This is the quick hits edition where we go over one or two topics that'll get you through your commute, brushing your teeth, taking a shower, whatever you're doing. We appreciate any feedback, reviewing, subscribe, download, like, whatever your platform, however you get your podcast. Please hit the like, hit subscribe, and let's keep this thing rolling. Let's go.
We talking about practice. Not a game. We talking about practice. Practice, man. I mean, how silly is that?
Just a bit outside.
Oh my! He's on fire!
I want to open with this. Obviously, news broke today that the Big Ten and the Pac-12 cancel all fall sports through the 2020 calendar year. And what that means is that a lot of sports at the Division I FBS level take a hit and are on a hiatus until the spring, from what it sounds like. It sounds like the Big Ten and the Pac-12 both have full intentions on picking up their football seasons, at least in the spring. This is strange. I'd like to know what happened. Personally, I'm not overly devastated by this because I'm very vocally anti NCAA. So every dollar that they don't get, I'm happy with. But you got to think about the logistics of this, and I hope that the NCAA and the people that voted on this, I mean, there's smart people in that room. They're university presidents and executives that make these decisions and get paid a lot of money to make these decisions. But I'd like to know what happened in the last 3 or 4 days, because last week it was announced. I mean, it was the buzz that the NCAA, or that the Big Ten at least, had released their new COVID-friendly schedule, which was basically a conference schedule, and they shuffled things around and made it so that teams would have to travel less. And from the sounds of it, they put a lot of work, a lot of thought, a lot of time into that for them to 4 or 5 days later just stop football and stop fall sports. So with that being the verdict that they came to, I wonder how much planning they put into this, because one of the first things I thought of was, well, is the transfer portal going to be open? Meaning are these kids that are at Big Ten and Pac-12 schools going to be able to transfer? Because there's a lot of kids that are losing a year of eligibility, losing a year of football, and even if they're not, they're going to want to go play football because, it's their livelihood, it's what they do, and a lot of them hope to make a career out of it, especially at the Pac-12 and Big Ten levels. So, I think that this is going to benefit the SEC, the Big 12, and the ACC for sure, being able to take in transfers and all of that. What I worry about is, well, let me phrase it this way. I expect movement quickly from one side or the other. One side being the Pac-12 and the Big Ten, or the other side being the other three Power 5 conferences. Because if the Big Ten and the Pac-12 don't set a schedule, set a plan for spring sports to resume, they're going to lose a lot of kids to the transfer portal, and they're going to lose a lot of their talent, and the rich will get richer. The SEC is loaded, the Big 12's fairly loaded, and you take the cream of the crop that are running out of time in their college careers at the Big 10 and Pac-12 level and move them into that conference. It makes them that much stronger. The worry that I have, this is why I say that the other side should move quickly, is I expect that either the Big Ten and the Pac-12 to come up with a bona fide plan for football in particular, in the spring, a schedule, protocol, what it looks like, and do some things to ensure these kids that don't transfer have a season. So the other side of that is it'll be messy if this transfer portal opens. These kids can move, and these kids that are looking for another year of eligibility or trying to improve their draft stock move to another conference that is supposedly having a season, and they get their transfer through, and then that conference decides they're not playing football. Well, now you got a mess because these kids just moved schools, changed their way of living, and did all, really put themselves out trying to better themselves, and to be left basically high and dry. And they've left a program that wanted them but wasn't going to play football for a program that didn't necessarily want them at first, that now is also not going to play football. So I expect movement quickly, whether it's the other three Power Fives doing the same and going for a spring season, or the Big Ten and the Pac-12 to set forth rigid guideline for what spring ball looks like, and giving these kids that are on the fence about staying at their universities a chance to make a decision, or to give them some reassurance that there will be a season and they won't lose their eligibility. I mean, spring ball. I mean, everybody hates the idea of it, and it's different. I mean, we're all a little hesitant to change a lot of times, and spring ball is really not that bad. There's the old heads that are anti-change, and it can never work, it's a terrible idea, blah blah blah. Yeah, it's a short turnaround, it's 2 seasons, it is what it is. I mean, you can slam it all you want, but I mean, these are uncertain times. Nobody's prepared to deal with this. I don't let the universities or the conferences off the hook that easily. They have had time to deal with this. I mean, they've had time to do something other than release a schedule and then a week later postpone the season. This whole hashtag we want to play or whatever, I mean, yeah, it sounds great, and it's good to see these kids have that competitive edge, but at the end of the day, they're kids. They're 17 to 21 year olds, and you can say that. I mean, these guys are saying all the right things, the coaches especially, because they don't want to lose their recruits. They're selfish. Everybody in the NCAA is selfish, and I hope it just goes away. But for now, it's what we've got. Like people say, oh well, they're safer here than anywhere else. Where's here? Like yeah, you have your team and you can somewhat bubble them, but once you introduce students back onto the campus and they go to class and they're out in public and they go to the bookstore and they do this and this, like you can't bubble this scenario like you can the pros. Like you can't take a bunch of kids that don't make any money and stick them in a room and tell them they can't come out in order to play football for free for a bunch of greedy executives. It's just not. It's not the way it works. It's not. I would hope that that's not the case, but these coaches, they say, oh well, they're safer here and we can control the environment. No, you can't. You can't control the environment. I've been on campus at Michigan State when I was 21 years old. You can't control that environment. It's not controllable. It's a bunch of 19, 20, 21 year old kids that are in college, and they're going to do what college kids do, and hell, you can't even keep NBA players in the bubble without them breaking it. And they've got all the money in the world and all the amenities that they could ask for in their campus, quote unquote, their wide world of sports venue, and they still break it to go to strip clubs and do whatever. So what do you think a bunch of college athletes that are cooped up with a bunch of people their own age are going to do? Like, it doesn't make sense. Like, either these coaches that are saying this, I mean, the Harbaughs and Sabans and whoever are Dabos, and either they're just incredibly naive, which I don't think they are, or they have an agenda, which is to keep their recruits and say the right things to keep their talent in place. There's guys that if they go play spring ball, these are the guys. Clemson especially, Ohio State and Alabama. They've got a lot of players on their team that if you go play spring ball, there's a good chance that your best players aren't going to play because they're getting ready for the draft. So of course Nick Saban and these greasy coaches are going to say what they need to say to keep the competitive edge, and that's their job. They've been good at it for a long, long time, and they get paid a lot of money to be good at it. And ethics be damned, they're successful, for lack of a better word. I'm not sure how they sleep at night sometimes, but they're good at what they do. So, but yeah, I expect movement quickly on one side or the other, because this transfer portal opens and it is going to be a mess. So either look for a set in stone schedule for spring football for the Big Ten and Pac-12, or expect in the very, very near future the ACC, SEC, and the Big 12 to do the same and postpone their sports through the spring. Thank you for tuning in to the Flipside Podcast, Flipside for your ears. Again, like, subscribe, download, leave a review, and see you next time. Thank you.